Just clap. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Hunters Hub. This is your host Fortuan, also known as Dale, joined by my good friend Tucker slash Morg. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. I just got off from a party that I had with my brother today. We just had, well, he ordered pizza. I made some awesome, well, whatever's left of the nachos. Ooh, like a whole
Okay.
bunch of ground beef, fresh tomatoes, and green onions, and white onions, and olives. And then I also bought like these neat little, I can't remember what they're called. They're like these little green peppers that you can get at like Mr. Sub, those pickled peppers. Yeah,
Hmm.
had a whole bunch of
Pepperoncinis?
pop. That's the ones. Yeah, peppercini peppers.
Mm.
Yeah, those things are really good.
Hmm. I have
Yep,
never
played
heard
a
of those.
little bit of N64, so yeah, I got pretty far in Donkey Kong 64. Managed to get out of level 1, working towards level 2 and Angry Aztec, so
Yeah.
it's getting good.
Okay. And welcome Sasha. How you doing?
Thanks. Good, good. Working, busy like always, but had time for trunk or treating with my child this morning and yeah,
Okay.
had a little bit of time to play video games too this
Nice.
week. So, yeah, excited to talk horror tonight.
Yeah, it's a favorite topic for you. And speaking of which, Ace, how you doing?
Spooky. Doing pretty good.
Mr. Baby Daddy. We got to have fun announcing your and Pan's kids all at the same time.
hmm Yeah, I mean,
Are they the
we.
same day or were they just like barely apart?
I think they were the next day or one of the days after us.
Okay, okay, all right. I
I don't
wasn't
know.
sure.
Time is a blur.
It will be
Oh,
for
I can
the
imagine.
good first month. I think we're gonna have to be like, hey Ace, it's Saturday, and you're gonna be like, oh crap, it is.
I can manage the days, but like just like the pretty much like every 3 hours, like clockwork between night and
Oh
day
yeah.
of just like changing and feeding and
Hmm.
comforting until Alexander's back to sleep and stuff like that, and then tending to Andrea, making sure that she's got everything she needs.
Getting rid of the gack and black that comes out of those babies to begin with.
Oh, that's
Ugh.
already well past. Now we're on
Yeah,
to
it's like day
stringy
one and
poops.
two. Yeah.
I
Yep.
think I've been. Did I send you the picture that she had sent on Snapchat? The this is the face of a baby who
Yes.
just shit up his back and then immediately pooped again on the towel and on my legs
Yep.
because that was fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I, I'm back to work too, so I'm
Oh
in
yeah.
office
Yeah.
3 out of the four days that I work. So, and then I have 3 days off a week. So I technically have like 3.5, 4 days of being at home. So I at least I'm home the majority of the time to help her out and
I think
take
I
care of
had
him.
2 weeks unpaid time off is what I had
I
when
had
Cece
one
was born.
because we have what's called flex time. So it's just like discretionary time off, but
Mm-hmm.
not paid. And then I do have PTO that's left over, but we're gonna
Save
save
it.
that in case I end up really needing it.
Understood. Boy, my arms are got really cold. It's getting cold in here. Um, so for the audio, we also have our other guest, Jangers, who won't be talking tonight because he's just a picture of a dog. But we can't have Tucker and Dale without Jangers. So
We need a poster boy.
yeah, uh, I was saying to you guys earlier, Ace, you didn't hear this, but I can only find one picture of Jangers from the movie, and it's the one where they're pointing the gun at him. So I just cropped out the gun.
Fair enough.
So here we are. So we're gonna be talking about spooky stuff today. Spooky recommendations like games, movies, books, all sorts of stuff. Um, we'll get to it when we get to the books, but I had to rethink because I don't do horror. So I had to rethink, like, how can I spin this to be a horror one, even though it's not really horror, but there are horrifying things. So you'll see if you guys agree when I talk about those books. Um, See if they would qualify. Because I think under the general rule, they're just fantasy, but the situations in which the book is about, I think, can be classified as horror. So,
Okay.
so there we go. So, I guess we'll start with games, considering we tend to be a video game podcast most of the time. So, my first recommendation for a horror game, which is the game that has scared me the most in my life, but granted, most when I was a kid, and that's going to be Diablo 1. That game is
Oh.
fairly creepy, fairly scary, and as an adult, I at times do not like playing that for extended amount of times because I will jump scare myself because the way monsters just appear out of nowhere and suddenly you're going to die.
Fair enough.
And that game is hard, difficult, and I think most people who have played Diablo 1 can agree that the fresh meat made people have to change their underwear the first time.
Oh yeah, the butcher.
The first encounter with the butcher is just absolutely scary. Dog? Are you kidding me? Dog just knocks stuff off of my bed. I have that puzzle sitting back there. I hope she doesn't destroy it. I did a lot of work to get that thing on a cardboard and not break it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so Diablo 1, Morg, I think you've played it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have.
Ace, have you?
Nope.
Okay, and Sasha, I
I've
don't
only
think
lightly
you...
touched Diablo
No.
2.
Okay. So, Diablo 1 is available, I think, only on GOG now. I think GOG has the rights to sell it, which is interesting because before GOG got the rights to sell it, no one had it. It was not legally purchasable, even by Blizzard, for a long time. So...
That's really weird that they wouldn't be able to like sell one of their like earliest games. It's really bizarre.
I don't know. You can't get Lost Vikings legitimately right now either.
Wow, that's weird.
It's another game of theirs before they were Blizzard. So so that's my first one. What's some... I guess, Sasha, you talked about other game recommendations, or...
Well, I have one for more of like the horror virgin type,
Sure.
which is Layers of Fear.
Okay.
I am not a person who likes to actually play and control horror games. I more like to watch my husband play them and solve the puzzles for him, and then he's the muscle through the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But Layers of Fear is kind of more of like spooky Gone Home, you know, like a walking simulator. And there's really no consequence for dying. You just get to experience that. But what I liked about that game is different choices that you make, you're going to get a different ending. And the ending is depicted in a like your artwork, your masterpiece. And if you get the right ending, then it's your magnum opus.
Oh,
But
okay.
if you get the wrong ending, then it's something else. But each one of those pictures are pretty horrifying in the end.
Okay. I've heard of Layers of Fear before. Never seen it.
There's more than one. I didn't really enjoy watching or playing the second one. But the first one, you're an artist. And there's like Lovecraftian themes in it, rats in the walls. And you're just exploring your mansion. And the mansion is changing with your psyche. I think it's representative of your mind. And then in the second one, you're a filmmaker. Either you're an actor or you're a director. I can't remember. But you're on this cruise ship, and it also has some Lovecraftian themes.
Okay.
Like Dagon. So if you're into that kind of stuff, and like I said, the tension is cut very much by there's no real consequence for dying other than you might reload a little bit back.
Okay.
So
All right. So Morg, what do you have for spooky games?
Ooh, okay. So I have two recommendations, and one of them is pretty modern. It is Five Nights at Freddy's. What is it called? Here, wait. I believe it is Security Breach. That game is really, really fun, and like it keeps a lot of like the horror themes of like the original Five Nights at Freddy's, but
Mhm.
at least it gives you the ability to free roam the mall that you're in and
Instead of just
try
playing with
and like
cameras.
make your exactly, yeah,
Right.
like it's an actual game. um Outside of that one, I think another one that really caught my eye, and I remember vaguely playing this, but I was like really, really young, and it was back in the GameCube era. Eternal Darkness, Sanity's
Oh yeah.
Requiem. Oh my god, that game is so scary. Oh
I've
yeah,
been
because
told a lot about this game from my friend Brian, who is a horror buff, and he's like, "You got to play it."
mhm.
And then he's like,
Yeah,
the
it's
more
really good.
insane you get, like there's one screen where it's like it has like a cockroach crawling across the TV and stuff. That's just like it's
Yeah.
nothing to do with the game, but it freaks you out. And then he said the scariest one is where it goes to like a blue screen. Your GameCube says it's like GameCube system failure, erasing all data, da da da. Like it's just like it's like a weird hacking thing, and then once it's
Yeah.
done, pops back to the normal game like nothing happened, and you're like, what?
Yeah, like the game is so horror. It's so meta with how scary it is. Like it'll actually go out of its way to try and scare you as like the actual player, more so than like you like playing as like a character in the game. Like it's super meta. So yeah, it'll go out of its way to freak you out however way it can, including giving you the blue screen and saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna delete all your data," and you're like, "What?
Yeah,
No!" And then it's like, "Gotcha," but no.
yeah, that's I've heard about that one. That's I never played it myself, but I've been told to.
It's really good. Yeah, I couldn't recommend a better one.
So Ace, what about you for games?
I've got one main recommendation, and then what I would say are two honorable mentions.
Okay,
So, obviously, the first I would recommend is going to be the Dead Space game.
sure. Yeah,
Uh,
I've played it. Not
definitely
finished it, but I
definitely
played it.
changed the horror genre of video games, and it's it definitely is an interesting game to behold,
Mm-hmm.
to say the least. And they're working on the remake right now, and I've got that pre-ordered, so I'll be getting that eventually once that comes out next year. And then as far as my honorable mentions, I would recommend Subnautica because although it's survival mainly, it does have a lot of horror elements, especially if you
Like when you
have
get a Reaper out of nowhere.
thalassophobia and things like that,
Oh God.
as
Mm-hmm.
well as like the giant leviathans, such as like the Reaper and Ghost leviathans, the
Mm-hmm.
crab squids, uh, and generally just like the fear of the unknown, especially as you go deeper and deeper underwater and things like that. And then the second honorable mention I have is for Alien Isolation.
yes.
That one is also a really good one.
Yeah, I don't think I will ever be
Uh,
playing a game like that. That is not a kind of game that I enjoy
I
doing.
still have not gone back to it since I had that brief hour that I played it and then went and had like a mental panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen clips pop up on my social feeds here and there of people playing and getting caught unexpectedly by the xenomorph, and does
Yeah,
not make me eager to play, but eventually I will, maybe, probably, hopefully.
It
the
really is an excellent game. I watched my husband play it, and I feel like it's good enough that they could make a movie with that same storyline.
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've seen some clips of of people being like, "Oh, I totally faked it out," and then it just like stabs you through the locker or something, and you're like, "Holy crap!" Like I've seen some.
I forgot. I actually have a third honorable mention.
Okay.
It is a game that I've not yet played, but I really, 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 really want to, and I'm sure you may have seen it going around. It's Mortuary Assistant.
No,
Ooh,
I have not.
Yes.
mortuary assistant.
So it's a game where essentially you get essentially like recruited slash hired to work in a mortuary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as you're embalming and preparing bodies for funerals and stuff like that, paranormal stuff goes down because essentially your job, besides embalming them, is to figure out which of the three bodies is possessed by a demon. But you have to, as you go along, identify markings to be able to properly identify uh, which house of hell it belongs to and which demon exactly it is. And depending on
Okay.
how much you pay attention and whether or not you get it right, there are 5 total endings. Obviously, one of which is where you get possessed.
Okay.
Hmm.
So it is a very interesting game. I've watched a variety of my favorite streamers playing it, and just the different levels of creepiness that they achieve throughout like the playthroughs, because it varies so much, is insane. Like there will be times where you'll just like come out from one area and it'll be just there'll be a demon or a body standing like in the hallway. There'll be times where you'll be passing by a window and there'll be like a shape or a face of someone outside the window. Uh, Above like the actual like table where you work on the bodies, there's like a lamp that casts light down.
Yeah.
In one of them, the demon was like hanging above, clutching onto the light, looking down at you. So
Oh wow. The
there's a
cadaver.
lot of just general spookiness that
Okay.
goes on. Um, and sometimes there's like very subtle clues as to like which body is possessed. One of which is like the body will actually be essentially like smiling,
Mm-hmm.
and then other times there will be like various scratches and or like symbols marked on the body. So you really have to like pay attention and do your homework.
Okay. All right.
I haven't even played it, and it's already like a 9 or a 10 for me.
Holy crap.
Okay. Well, I have two more games to talk about. So the other one I played for the first time, I think it was yesterday or the day before. Um, and I saw it on sale. It was like brand new game. It's called Sucker for Love. And what it
Okay.
is it's a dating sim, but your target date, at least the main one in this game, is the Cthulhu. So,
Oh yeah, I've heard about this one. This one's a fun one.
so this game is scarier than I thought it was going to be because it looked like, oh, it's supposed to be funny, and I was like, okay, I need more comedic games in my life, right? So, and I will say it is funny because it starts off and the game is pretty simple as far as gameplay. You have a room and you click to sort of like pan around the room or go to different areas of the house. Like you can go to the bathroom or you can go outside on the balcony and you click various things, and the beginning of the game you perform a ritual to summon Cthulhu, who is a girl, uh, and by summoning her, you have awoken her from her slumber as one of the elder gods, and she is going to destroy the world. Um, and it is you doing various rituals to date her before the world ends. And there are various endings. One of which is, and it's funny thing. The funny part is like when you summon her, she's like, "Why have you summoned me, mortal?" And she's got this like ominous, like creepy looking like silhouette with red eyes, and then your character says, Because I want to smooch you." And then she gets all embarrassed and she's like, she looks super cute or something like that. And she's like, "No, what would you say that? Like, I'm supposed to be this elder god. This is the destroyer of the world. Why would you want to smooch me?" So, like, your whole goal is to smooch her, and you have to do various rituals by doing, like, you have to follow. She gives you this, you get this ritual guide, not only just to summon her, but do the various rituals to woo her. But
Yeah, you
as
have to earn her favor.
right, but as you are doing these rituals, you like all sorts of things happen. Like you have a ritual that you have this like mask so that you can't get found by the creatures that are taking over the world, who are still, everything is still happening. You do various, like, one of the rituals like bond makes you into a Cthulhu with the tentacles on your face and stuff, and she's like, "You were cute before, but now you're my type." So she gains a heart, and once you get 3 hearts, uh you can smooch her. But there's unexpected times where it just is creepy. Like, there's this really tense part where there's a bunch of tentacles that keep coming in. There's this ominous music, and you have to perform this ritual like 3 times before it gets you. And if you don't, you lose. But it has pretty how do I say this, fair checkpointing. So like you don't have to replay it so much. You only have to replay like 1 or 2 pieces. But you can also there's a breakup ritual, and there's a really funny part where you can look, and you're looking at the pages and you think, okay, the game's just not being interactive, and then you see the book gets forcibly pulled down if you stare at the breakup ritual too long, and she's like, "You're not breaking up with me, are you?" And then she gets all creepy, and like it's a jump scare because she pulls down the book and she's like suddenly in your face with like this evil looking face, and you're like, "Oh, okay." No, I'm not doing the breakup ritual. Totally not. Which, by the way, one of the secret endings is doing the breakup ritual. And you do this to get the various endings. Of course, the good ending is the world ending with you kissing her, uh, or smooching her. It's really funny, but it's also super creepy at times. Um, I did all of this it took me 45 minutes to play through every scenario with her. There are 2 other girls to date that you unlock by doing this. I haven't done the other 2 because I've been playing other things, but I don't know. It was like $5, and I was like, sure, why not? I'll try it out. So there's that one, and then I'll have to look. What did I say my other one was? I forget. Oh yeah, the actual creepy game that still creeps me out to this day. You guys know me. I'm a big Doom fan. But Doom 64 is a creepy game. If you guys have ever seen that.
I got to get my hands on it.
So, Doom is known for being this like high adrenaline action series. Doom 64 turns that on its head and makes it outright horror. The monsters have all sorts of echoey growling and scritching noises. Instead of, you'll hear ambient music instead of like, the rock music that's typical, and like the metal / rock you'll hear in typical Doom. It's just ambient, creepy, scary music. A couple of the soundtracks have a baby crying as one of the things. So this like distorted, awful baby crying.
I was gonna say PT.
Yeah, it's worse than that. It's worse than the PT. As far as the baby crying.
Worse than the jelly bean fetus?
Jelly Bean's fetus is just more or less funny to me in that game. But the baby crying, like I would say what really carries this is the soundtrack. And classic Doom is a little more scary than modern Doom because of the monster closets, the jump scares that just happen, stuff like that, where you're just like, "Oh, I found the red key. Okay, now here's 17 Hell Knights, and they're all going to scream at you in your face at once, and then survive that. It's just a creepy game. Like I didn't like playing it as much as a kid. Even as an adult, I haven't finished it yet. Um, the soundtrack of it is just out there. So if you're looking for a more action based sort of horror game, Doom 64 has been re-released since. It is now available on, I think, everything right now. I think even on Switch. So if you kind of like that stuff. So did you guys do any TV shows for your lists? Because I didn't.
I can.
I've one.
Oh, I have one too.
Okay. So
I'll go first. I
hit
guess.
me. Yeah.
So, one of mine is a combination of comics and Netflix series, which is Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Okay.
It is technically teen TV along the lines of like Riverdale, but it's kind of one of my guilty pleasures. However, what I really like about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is comic series and the like at least season 1, 2 of the Netflix series are pretty close together. There's like little Easter eggs of the Archie universe, and I grew up like I always read Betty and Veronica and Archie and Jughead, and I love all of those comics. So it felt very much like a bit of an upgrade, adult upgrade with Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, going from the like bubblegum poppy campy Sabrina the Teenage Witch to actual part of a coven, dark arts, crystals, spells, like really cool atmosphere of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So
okay.
It comes out, I feel like every Halloween was a new season release. So that was something I looked forward to for the last couple of years. And I don't know, I just really like it. I enjoy it. I think people who like witchcraft and witch stuff in their horror might enjoy it.
Okay. I think
Fair
my
enough.
parents have watched this. I think I've seen it in passing. So, does she have like a short blonde hair?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it. A couple episodes of it. Not all the way, but pieces of a couple episodes. Okay. All right. I didn't have any TV shows because I haven't watched any that are supposed to be spooky. I mean, unless you want to talk about the real life horror of Blue Bloods, but that's about it. Murders and that kind of stuff. So Morg, did you have one?
Yes, I do actually. If anybody is familiar with like Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi's early works of like Evil Dead, there's a TV show that came out I think a few years ago called Ash versus Evil Dead.
It's on my
Yes.
list. I haven't watched it yet, but it is on my list.
You need to see it. It's really, really good. I couldn't recommend anything better. It's funny, but it's also pretty scary too. Yeah,
Okay.
the fact that Bruce Campbell has to go back as Ash and he has to fight all the Evil Dead, and they have to try and somehow use the Necronomicon to try and put all the Deadites back into hell and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a really good series. I enjoy it. There's some pretty disturbing parts, like the part where poor Pablo gets taken by a demon or whatever, and then the demon like uses the Necronomicon to perform these rituals where he's literally vomiting out demons like just endlessly, just giving birth to them through his mouth. Just blah, blah, blah. It's the worst scene I've ever seen ever. Makes me feel so bad for him. I'm like, oh, poor Pablo. He deserves so much better than this.
Yikes. Okay. Yeah,
It's brutal.
I haven't watched it yet because I've never seen any of the Evil Deads aside from the very first one.
Yeah, they're all really good. Even Army of Darkness, which is like, I don't really know if it really counts as horror, but I mean, like, it's
under
good.
the
It's fun.
umbrella. It's fun.
It's
Well-
under the umbrella, so I mean, like, technically, it kind of is. It's more like horror action comedy,
Yeah,
but it's still one of my favorite movies of all time.
gotcha. Okay, all right. So Ace, did you have a TV show?
I've technically got 4.
Okay.
I would recommend the 4 Mike Flanagan TV shows
Yes.
on Netflix. So that's going to be Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, and the Midnight Club. Which Midnight Club is actually apparently going to be at least 2 seasons, if not more. But
Interesting.
all of those are very good.
Okay.
The first 2 definitely deal with a lot of supernatural type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Midnight
I'd say
Mass.
Midnight Mass does too.
Well, I was gonna go into that more because I would say by the name alone, it deals with a lot of religious aspects and supernatural aspects,
Sure.
and it's a what I would say is almost like a non-traditional vampire story.
Okay.
Sort of spoilers. And then the Midnight Club is a a horrifying gut punch of a series because it's essentially all teenagers, like high school age,
Mm-hmm.
who are terminal and living in a hospice facility.
I read
Mm.
Midnight Club
there's-
growing up, so I'm really excited about this series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there are definitely some supernatural aspects to it that sort of are teased to be like possible hallucinations, but possibly also actual supernatural stuff. So it's a very interesting thing, and it definitely doesn't pull any punches on the horror of being terminally ill and
Got ya.
being essentially already dead.
That kind of reminded me of a movie. Now this isn't horror, but it's a romantic movie about 2 teenagers who are terminally ill if they can't get a transplant. So they're like sort of like in the hospital kind of for life. And the
Yeah.
both of them sort of like fall in love, and they have like all sorts of immunity issues and stuff like that. But that kind of reminded me because that hospital has like a group of teenagers that are like a lot of them that are going to die if they don't have a donor.
Mhm.
And that's just a more like emotional / romantic one, but it was a good movie. I don't remember the name of it at all, but I watched it during COVID because what else are you gonna do? Like just watch movies and play games during, when
Fair
we
enough.
were in full lockdown. So I wish I remember the name of it, but it kind of reminded me of that. So okay, so that was Midnight Club.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, 4
Oh.
things, but yeah.
Well, Midnight
Oh.
Club being the terminally ill people.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that there was a series that I vaguely remember for the 90s, and it's very, very disturbing, very dark, but it's also, oddly enough, very engrossing. If anybody's ever heard of The Max with like 2 X's, it was a comic book series, and then they turned it into an animated series in the 90s, and it's really, really freaky. Like it takes you on some like psychological trips, like with the way that like how these disturbed people, kind of like, I don't know if like they are even like if they're transported into actually like another dimension, like in the outer world or whatever it is. But like yeah, like the fact that the world is like being inhabited also by like these weird freaky little things called isits or whatever that are being manipulated by a magician or whatever it is, and they're able to kill and then take over the identities of these people and disguise themselves as normal people. It's a really freaky series. Oh yeah, it barely makes any sense if you're like into more like normal shows. But I mean, like if you're the kind of person who likes to explore like psychological horrors and stuff like that, like psychological thrillers and whatnot, it's really good. Like because yeah, it explores a lot of like the deeper, darker parts of the mind. It's yeah, it's a fun one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've watched a few more horror things lately because of the mutual podcast that we guys like, the horror version and that kind of stuff. And I was legitimately interested in watching stuff like Antlers because I wanted to see how they handled the Wendigo, that kind of thing. Because I like monsters and horror has monsters sometimes, so I will watch that. So, transitioning from shows, I'm surprised no one said Supernatural. You guys have suggested that to me so many times. Is that
Well,
not horror?
I'd say it starts out as horror, but then I would say it then goes more into action thriller territory.
Sure. Okay.
It kind of feels like the CSI Miami of like horror
Sure.
and handling a lot of that stuff. Like, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but with them good old boys.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, wait, wasn't it? Wait, Supernatural. Yeah, I think there was a meme of like the two brothers from Supernatural where they've got like the Grinch tied up to a chair or whatever, and they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Before we do anything about this guy, we have to check his lore to make sure that we know the full scope of what he's capable of. And then there's one of them with the book of How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss or whatever. Oh man.
Wow.
That's kind of funny. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So transitioning off of that, movies. I have 3 movies that I picked. Now I will say this. Here's a freebie, and I'm sure we can all recommend it because, hello, we're dressed up as it. Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Technically, it is
Yep.
horror, but it's comedy horror. It's my favorite kind of horror, which is comedic horror. But I have recommended things that actually made me tense or scared, or I was actually enjoying that are more traditional horror. So yeah, Tucker and Dale versus Evil. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's amazing. Came out in 2010. It's 12 years old now.
Well, gee, officer, we were just minding our own business on our property, and all these teenagers just came up and started killing themselves.
Yeah. Oh boy, I love that movie so much. So my first movie recommendation is going to be one that I watched because of the Horror Virgin, which is Hush.
Yes.
Hush.
Which is also
That-
Mike Flanagan.
Yes, I was gonna say.
That is such a cool movie about a woman who is hearing impaired. I think she's fully deaf, isn't she?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
there's a home invader that sort of kills. He killed other people, I think, and I don't know
Her
if he's-
neighbors,
Yeah.
I think.
Her
And-
neighbors and I believe her friend too.
Yes.
Well, he's got a tally count on his crossbow or fire, whatever he has, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a crossbow, and basically it starts off with this very tense horror movie. She doesn't recognize like what's going on to begin with because she can't hear. And then, she ends up like actually kind of fighting back against this guy eventually, and that's where the movie really picked up for me, is where she started fighting back, because that's what I don't like about these human horror movies. A lot of times people don't fight back sometimes, and I'm just like, okay, but I'm not saying that I would react in that way because I've never been in that situation, but I feel like the person is defeatable. They are not a supernatural being. Like you can do this. And I actually like how this movie is handled very well. It is very, very tense and very scary to begin with, but it picks up into more of a
Well,
thriller eventually.
I think part of why it's so effective is that he just freaking toys with her for the first part of it,
Yes.
because she recognizes the danger and then is like rushing to close the doors as he's there. And one of the doors that she manages to close is fully a glass door.
Yeah.
Like, that wouldn't stop him, so he's just completely toying with her. And
yeah.
the fact that she's even more vulnerable than just an average person because she's deaf and can't hear, I would say ramps up the tension and the fear, because, you know, we rely, whether or not we, recognize it, we rely a lot on our hearing.
I mean,
And once you take that away,
point taken. This is a podcast. Like, without hearing, this doesn't.
right?
No one. So like,
yeah, I mean, I don't think they've developed a automated braille machine to help with audio.
No, not yet.
So then I would bridge off of that as well, and then also suggest another Mike Flanagan, which is Gerald's Game. And
okay. Haven't heard
that
of this
one. So this one, just like Hush, features another actress who is featured in the TV shows that he does. This one is a couple goes to like their private home in the woods for like a weekend, and the boyfriend, husband, he ends up having a heart attack and dies, and she is left handcuffed to the bed. And so it's a lot of psychological and survival horror.
Okay.
It's a Stephen King novel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and then I think I forget which one, but one of the TV shows is a book on the mantelpiece above the bed.
Oh,
too.
okay.
It's Midnight Mass, I think.
Okay, yeah. I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. But yeah, so they're sort of all like interconnected in some way, even loosely.
Okay. Did anyone want to toss another movie in before I talk about another one?
Oh, I got tons.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk movies.
Well, I know Trick or I think Trick or Treat was one that I recommended a little while ago, where it's like a collection of like little mini horror stories. Yeah, they're pretty fun. It's a fun movie more than anything else. Like, it's not super duper scary, but it fits the Halloween theme. Especially when like the first story is literally about like a serial killer, and like, like you think that he's gonna like kill his son in the basement or whatever. No, he's teaching him how to do the family business. And it's pretty creepy just, seeing that. There's always something worse than, having a serial killer kill a kid. No, having a serial killer raise a kid to be the next generation of serial killers, that's scary.
Okay.
Yeah. Those anthology horror movies like Trick or Treat and VHS are pretty interesting at times.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Have you seen a Trilogy of Terror?
I've not.
No.
It's a classic. They're all.
My ear broke.
I think there's 3 stories, obviously, because it's a trilogy. They're all starring Karen Black, and there's one in particular that has some very funny memes. But I do recommend it if you like campy horror, and if you like, low budget B horror from like the 80s. It's 3 completely unrelated stories, but the third story is about this woman who she has this warrior doll from like some kind of a tribe. I'm not really sure what kind of tribe it's supposed to be. And it's got this necklace on it. and it comes with a note, and the note says, "Do not allow the necklace to be separated from the doll." And obviously, the necklace gets separated from the doll, and he comes to life. And so it's like origins of Chucky almost.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do recommend it. If as a Halloween classic.
So sort of Chucky mixed with Gremlins.
And more like Chucky mixed with Small Soldiers.
Oh my god,
Fair
that
enough.
sounds awful.
Well, I was saying
Small
Gremlins
Soldiers
just
is a
because
good
of like
movie.
the don't do the thing aspect.
The rule. Well, she's like careless with it in it. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh my
she just
God.
like whatever.
Oh,
Gotcha.
I'm such a dork. I can't believe it. I can't believe that I completely left out 4 TV series. Goosebumps. Literally, it was a television series where it was
Wow.
R.L. Stein's books.
As a
Where each
Canadian,
book
how can
was
you
like-
leave it out?
You have failed as a Canadian.
Oh,
What's the other one? Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh,
That
yes.
one is often
Oh
revered.
my god.
Yep.
Yeah.
I never watched any of these as a kid. I saw a couple episodes of the Goosebumps. I used to read some of the Goosebumps books back in the day, but like I never really found them that scary or interesting. But like the Goosebumps, what I remember, the show, the one episode I really remember is the kid who could run really fast, and then he runs into a tree and breaks his nose. That's all I remember.
Is that the How I Learned to Fly? I feel like that's
Maybe.
which one it
Maybe.
was.
I
see,
remember
that's
Night of
why
the Living Dummies and How to Kill a
Yeah.
Monster. Ooh, those are good. Say
Now-
Cheese and Die.
The girls really like the Goosebumps movie with Jack Black.
Mm-hmm.
the point and click game Goosebumps is actually pretty cute, and it's a great nod if you read the original series.
Okay.
Like
Mhm.
it felt like there were little Easter eggs from all of the original books, and then you have to defeat a ton of the monsters from the original books. It was nostalgia overload for me. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So the second movie I'm going to recommend, and now from what I've heard from people, that it's a terrible movie and no one likes it. However, I like it because it has Matthew Lillard. It has
13 Ghosts.
13 Ghosts.
Yes.
I like 13 Ghosts. I liked 13 Ghosts since I was a kid and saw it because
Mm-hmm.
it's got that thing that I love, which is A, monsters, and B, backstory to monsters. So, like, all these ghosts, the 13 ghosts, have this giant backstory on how they become the mother and the giant baby, or the juggernaut, or, like, there's these, like, they found these people's who died ghosts that fits, like, a specific scenario and sort of bring them all together in this giant death machine that's a house. And yeah, and they just try to like create this ritual, and they were trying to trick the main character into performing the ritual essentially. And
Mm-hmm.
just learning about the ghosts and stuff for me was really interesting, and learning about like the Fallen Prince, you know, because he was like the high school all-star and that kind of stuff. The way they fit these sort of like templates in different ways was interesting to me. It's like the Fallen Prince, you're like, oh, you think like a prince like from like medieval times. It's like, no, he's like the prince of the high school kind of deal. Like he was
Prince of the Prom.
yeah, like that kind of like warping of the definition and how people fit it, and the grieving widow, the grieving mother was like the main character's wife that gets roped in, and something like that. Like it was a very interesting movie. I've recently rewatched it like within the past year, and I still enjoyed it, but all I've heard from other people is that it's terrible, and I just don't understand why. So I don't know. Sasha, do you like 13 Ghosts?
I like 13 Ghosts.
Okay.
I can appreciate it for what it is. 90s horror or
Right?
early 2000s, you know. But I like it for the same reasons. I do love, a nice sidestep of the main story with some good juicy details.
Yeah. Yeah, I like when we have reasons for what things are doing and that kind of thing. I like lore and backstory, which again, I know supernatural. I'll get into it eventually. I'll get there. Let me finish Blue Bloods. um. So yeah. What? Where can you guys jump off of that one? I guess. What's your guys' next movie? I know we can do movies all night, but we'll start with three each for the movies. Then we'll go to the books, and we'll probably go back to the movies because the books I don't think are going to be as
Well,
long.
I was gonna say I'm just gonna roll 2 books and 2 movies into one entry.
Yeah,
That's
do
gonna
it.
be The Shining, and then the
Doctor Sleep.
sequel, Doctor Sleep. Yes,
I do
Oh,
like
Doctor
Doctor
Sleep
Sleep.
was
I
so
don't like The
good.
Shining. I like Doctor Sleep.
I think those are
Here's
both
Johnny.
mandatory reading and mandatory watching,
I think
because
yes,
there
The
are
Shining.
there are
Yes.
definitely good things and bad things about both. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I
Namely,
mean,
Jack
just
Nicholson's creepy grin.
yeah,
I mean, he does
and
a good
I
job in
mean,
the movie. There's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with The Shining as a movie for me. It's just I watched it as a kid in high school, and it was already super old by then, and it wasn't fun. It was just funny to me at
Hmm.
that point. Like it wasn't scary
mm,
because it's like you get this tension building. It's like da da da, and then nothing, no music, nothing, black screen, white letters, Tuesday. So I laughed
Hmm.
about that for months. We would just
It was
go
a
up to each
shame
other
because
and just go
the
Tuesday.
book is the scariest book I think I've ever read.
Okay.
mm. Well, the thing is, like the book is drastically different from the movie because
Oh, I've heard.
have you listened to the Horror Virgin podcast about it?
Yes, I have. I've heard
Yep.
every horror
They,
virgin
they
episode.
discuss it. They discuss it in that, but like Kubrick sort of like sensationalizes and idolizes Jack's descent into madness, but then he also doesn't get redeemed. Whereas in the movie, or in the book, sorry, he like actually breaks away and has a moment of lucidity and like active actually acts to do what he
Sacrifice.
can
Yeah.
to save his family.
Yeah.
Uh, and then with Doctor Sleep, there's a lot of different aspects of horror in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like the whole aspect of the horrors of like drug use and drug addiction, because uh, Danny Torrance, like his father, is an alcoholic, and uh, spoilers, he ends up leaving a drug-addled mother and her
Mm-hmm.
infant child, and they pretty much are confirmed to have died, and then they haunt him, and then also like the actual uh, ghosts and spirits from the Overlook haunt him,
Mm-hmm.
and he has to create uh, mental boxes to keep them away. And then with the sort of evil, evil super squad, they are essentially like eating children, because
Mm-hmm.
the shine essentially can be used as like a tool to prolong your life, and
Yeah.
it's very unsettling in the beginning of the movie how they all sort of descend on a little girl like rats and just
Yes.
essentially feast on her. And then later in the movie, the baseball boy,
Yes.
when they kill him, that is a very unsettling scene. And uh, if I remember correctly, the trivia from the movie, the whole cast was like stunned when he just like popped up after that performance and was like, all right, that was great, guys. That was so much fun, and blah, blah, blah. And they were just like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right. So, The Shining and Doctor Sleep. I did see Doctor Sleep. It was really good.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor is definitely one of my favorite actors.
Agreed. He is really good. So Morg, do you have another movie to recommend?
Well, I mean, oh, what is it? I would say, well, if we wanted to combine books with movies, I would say The Dunwich Horror. It's a movie.
I've never seen or read the book.
Lovecraft.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I've read the complete. Yeah, I have the complete fictions of H.P. Lovecraft, and yeah, the Dunwich Horror. It's about a descendant who carries the blood of Yog-Sothoth, and he's essentially a mutant. And what he tries to do is he tries to perform a ritual in sacrificing a maiden in order to be able to bring his what is essentially his dad over into the real world. And then yeah, these people end up trying to stop him completing this ritual. So yeah, it's a crazy movie, and like the story is a lot better because the movie wasn't able to translate like how the guy was actually supposed to look. Like he was supposed to have like these weird like tentacles and stuff like that coming off of his body. He was supposed to have like the lower half of almost like a goat, almost like reptile features and stuff like that, and like skin and like scales and stuff like that, peeling and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really freaky, and it's a pretty good story. Actually, I would almost be willing to say that the complete fictions of H.P. Lovecraft are really good.
Okay.
Including the story where, yeah. But anyways, yeah. I can't recommend anything better than that. Really, it's good for late night reading. Very creepy stuff.
Okay.
And yes, there are movies.
Okay. All right. Sasha, do you have another movie before I do my last one?
Sure, I got one more, which is my favorite slasher,
Okay.
and that is Urban Legend. Have you guys
Not
seen
heard of
that
that
one?
one.
No, I have not
Oh
seen
my-
it, but I've heard of it.
Okay,
I'm going to
so-
Google it.
Now this is a treat. Urban Legend is one that is, it's like not a great movie, but like it also is a really great movie. It wasn't one of those knockoffs after Scream came out, and it's very meta horror in the sense of it knows exactly what it's doing. It pulls a lot of Easter eggs in based on the actors that are playing some of the parts, but the killer is killing people based on urban legends.
Oh.
So, like, have you heard the urban legend of the Lover's Lane where they go to kiss outside? They go make out at Lover's Lane, and the
guy
guy's like,
has a
"Hey, I
hooked
gotta go to the
hand."
bathroom."
Yeah.
And he steps outside, and then she keeps hearing scratching on the roof of the car.
Yeah.
And then it's her boyfriend. So, like, there's a murder in the woods at Lover's Lane. There's a nod to a person in the back seat while you're driving. There's one about the killer calling from upstairs in the house.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I used to live on a road named Lover's Lane, and then down the road there was the Mary Booth house, which
Yep.
apparently was a haunted house in Germantown. So feel free to look that up.
I feel like I've heard of that on a podcast. It's ringing some bells for me.
Hmm.
But there's horror royalty in the cast. Robert Englund is in this movie.
Okay.
Hmm.
Which, if you listen to the Horror Virgin episode, Todd always calls him the professor from Urban Legend instead of addressing him as Freddy Krueger.
Yes.
Your mother sucks cocks to devil.
Yeah. You've got the little girl from Halloween 5 is in the movie. You've
Okay.
got oh goodness, I can't think of what his name is, but he plays Chucky. He
Oh,
does
okay.
the voice of Chucky. He's in the movie. So yeah, it's a nice 90s visit into 90s horror, a nice time capsule to see all the like frosted tips and blue eyeshadow and like flared jeans, and it's great.
I just thought of there is another Matthew Lillard horror movie, and it's the original Scream.
Yes,
Yeah.
which
I
is a classic. Love that one too.
yeah. I always remember him as Shaggy though. That's where my
Yep.
my brain goes for him, Shaggy. Okay. So urban legend. All right. So my final one, crap, I got oh yeah. So I don't know. I consider it horror. It is somewhat scary. However, the larger series is nowhere near horror. But the first one, very scary. Pitch Black with Vin Diesel.
Oh yeah, I
Yep,
remember that. That's
I
actually a
remember
really
that.
good choice of horror. Definitely.
Very much I like creature horror, stuff like Cloverfield, stuff like that, where you have these interesting monsters and you're trying to figure out how to survive them, or A Quiet Place is another movie like this, where you got these creatures that you're trying to figure out what to do with them and whatnot. And Pitch Black is a sci-fi horror where this prisoner ship crashes on a moon, and they're like, okay, so we just gotta get out of here and it's fine. There's nothing wrong. And they keep hearing these noises. There's like this underground network of tunnels that have these like very scary, like super predators down there. And they're like, it's fine. They don't like the light. Cool. And then comes I don't know, what do they say, like a 7 year eclipse or something like that. The like whatever situation this moon has, it goes dark for like an extreme amount of time, and they're like, oh no, and then the things start coming out, and there's all these like there's smaller ones that fly that cut people up, and there's the bigger ones that are like on the ground that like really mess things up, but they just can't have light. They just can't be near light. So they have to in order to escape the planet, they try to get to this downed ship elsewhere and try to take off, but they have to go as a group. And they're like, okay, so why are they? There's a bunch of stuff like it. So why can they track us? Why are they getting near us? Because they're also trying to not stir attention. And it turns out they can smell blood, and then it turns out that this little kid that is with them is a little girl who's having a menstrual problem, and then they can smell that, and it gets like it's a really tense movie about just trying to survive this alien planet and get off. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Riddick as a character in that movie. But then like you get into the Chronicles of Riddick series, and it's just fantasy action stuff where Riddick is this bad A. Now I do give it props for Riddick just being Vin Diesel's favorite D&D character he ever played, and then he made that into a series of movies. Like I give him mad props for that. But Pitch Black is the first Riddick movie, and yeah, I really like Pitch Black, and I would consider it horror myself. It's not too scary, but I don't think all horror is really that scary. I mean, again, Tucker and Dale, that's horror. It's just different kind.
You mentioning the subterranean creatures reminds me of two movies that I recently watched that I will give honorable mentions to: The Descent and The Descent 2.
Okay, I was thought you were going to say The
Yes.
Cave, but okay.
I don't think
I
I've
was
seen
almost
that one.
thinking of.
The Descent is scary.
Is that the one
Yeah.
where the people like de-evolve in these bat things, or is that The Cave that I'm thinking of?
Probably the cave.
They sort of look like goblin-ish creatures.
Maybe that is the Descent.
They're
Yeah.
essentially blind humanoid creatures with pointy ears and stuff.
Falmer.
Yeah.
They fight the Falmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
the first one is definitely more scary, and
Falmer can be
the
scary in
second one,
Skyrim.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm talking about. The descent is scary.
Yeah.
yeah, the second
Yeah.
one I would say is a little bit goofier, and I feel it's a little bit too bright for it being a movie set in a cave.
Sure.
So that kind of took away from it for me,
Yeah, the
along
first
with
one.
I remember
the
watching
fact that
this
they
with my parents a long time ago, like right after it came out on DVD or whatever, or
yeah the
VHS
descent
probably.
to
I remember it being a pretty
lost
gory movie.
the second one lost some points for me because it literally had a poo pond and a scene where one of the creatures shits into the poo pond, and I'm just like, really, we needed to do this. This needed
Yeah.
to be part of the movie.
So that's where realism took me out there too, because I was like, even if she gets out of there, the infections that she has from the poo pond, she's dead.
Right.
She is dead. That's it.
Yeah,
Right.
that's literally septic.
And I also, because I usually will go to IMDb and look up like the trivia facts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't stick with the original ending for all releases, because the UK version has the ending where it's revealed that she's hallucinating her escape, and then the US version has it where she escapes, quote unquote, and then sees her, like, a hallucination of her friend in the car next to her, and it cuts out.
Mm.
I remember seeing it for the first time, and it was, I think, the UK ending, and it really put me off. Like, I remember being upset about the ending because I'm like,
Yeah,
we just watched
hallucination
all
stuff.
of this horrible stuff happen to them, and for no reason. Like, that's just it.
Yeah.
So when I watched it the second time, like 10 years later, and it was the US ending, I was like, this feels a lot better for the slog that I just got through.
Yeah. True.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't think in horror you should be afraid to have no survivors or have there be little hope of there being survivors.
I don't need a survivor, but the way that the original ending was, nobody was going to find out what happened to them either. So it's just, we just watched all this bad stuff happen for literally no reason. No, nothing.
Gotcha.
It's just bad stuff.
Kind of like
I
Jeepers
don't
Creepers.
mind I don't mind movies, like horror movies, where like somebody does make it out alive, but it's at the cost of like everybody else, like the greater whole. Like, for example, The Ruins, with like that carnivorous parasitic plant that like roots itself into people's bodies and then consumes them. And then you find out, well, okay, yeah, the one lady manages to get out and makes it alive, whatever, but she's carrying that plant that's infesting her body and then pretty much dooms the rest of the world. So like, that's a good scary ending.
Gotcha.
Oh god, dooms the rest of the world. That just reminded me of the freaking the ending of, I think it's Truth or Dare.
No.
The movie from a couple of years ago.
Oh no.
Where like everyone gets the weird like smiley poop face. And then at the end of it they like post it on the web, so they technically infect like most of the world with it, I guess.
Oh no.
Oh boy. Okay. That's weird.
Yeah.
So we could probably talk about. There's so many good horror movies. We could probably keep talking about that forever. But I
got two more that I have to get to.
Okay, we can come to them after the books, because am I the only one that has books outside of The Shining?
I've got books.
Okay.
I got a few.
Okay. But we can go back, like I was saying, like I have more movies I can talk about too, and I'm not even a horror fan. So so let's move on to the books, and we'll come back to movies if and write out the rest of the time with movies. But for the books, I'm going to say all three of mine in a row because they're all part of the same series. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where I had to reframe my thinking because I don't do horror. Like I've seen a lot of horror movies because they're popular and I like monsters and that kind of stuff. But my reading hasn't really delved into horror. My reading has always centered around fantasy and fiction and that kind of stuff. So my favorite author has this. One of my favorite authors, R.A. Salvatore. He's mostly known for the infamous Drizzt series, that is Dungeons and Dragons, and about a dark elf and his journey through life. There's like 42 books in the series now, and I am caught up on 41 of them. But this is about Catterley Bonaduce, who is a side character in like 3 of the books of the Drizzt series. Like he's just like a side character who is a cleric, and it's called the Cleric Quintet. And I told you guys I've been reading this, but there are 3 books in this that I would consider, given the circumstances, I would consider them possibly horror books because of the circumstances in which he finds himself and has to get out of and dealing with them. Like there's no other way to describe as a horrific situation that he's going through. So premise of Catterley is that he is a priest, a goodly priest of Denir, which is a god of knowledge, music, and writing. And he is and I'll just start. Books 1, 3, and 5 are what I consider the horror entries, and then 2 and 4 are sort of not, they're not unimportant, but they're not as scary. Scary situations. Like book 2 is a war between elves and orcs and goblins in a forest, but it's, there's not as much horror aspect to it other than just outright fantasy war. And book 4 is more of their like continuation of book 3 and a sort of assault on the big bad guy castle. Which, fantasy stuff, castle, evil clerics, that can be kind of horror. But really, the 1, 3, and 5 are what I would consider the horror ones. The first one, called Canticle, is there is this evil god called Talona. She is the goddess of poison and that kind of stuff. And she has designs of taking over this whole area of the world. And so there is this castle called Castle Trinity, and it is called Castle Trinity because Talona also has 3 spikes, trident, and a symbolism for her. But it is ruled by three groups working together, which are the warrior sect, the wizards, and the clerics. One of the wizards actually has learned about this thing called the Chaos Curse, and it's this evil potion essentially, and they want to use it to sort of like take over the land. So Catterley is just like a low-level like altar boy doing chores at the Edificant Library, which is this church for the gods of Denir and Ogma, who are brother gods in knowledge and music and that kind of stuff. And they're a big thing in the area. What makes this a horror is that the cleric Bargine manages to infiltrate the dungeons under the old catacombs and crypts underneath the Edificant Library that is this sort of like pseudo church, and releases the Chaos Curse that was finally completed. And what the Chaos Curse does, they put it in an ever-smoking bottle. And again, this is D&D stuff, so keep in mind this is high fantasy and whatnot. This ever-smoking bottle, when you breathe in the fumes, you take your inmost desires and you act on them as hard as you can. So people who the most thing that they want to do is eat, go on and eat themselves to death. They eat so far that they literally pop and die from eating.
Ooh.
You have these there was a sect of priests of Ilmater, which is another god, and this god's edict in the series is that pain is a finite thing in the universe. So as part of their worship, they like hurt themselves and cut themselves and that kind of thing, trying to absorb the finite amount of pain in the universe so other people don't have to feel pain. Well, when you put this unabashed, like, it's like, alcohol reduces your inhibitions, but this curse removes your inhibitions and then tells you to go at them 100 miles per hour. So these they're eviscerating themselves. They're like dying in pools of blood out in the middle of the thing. Like this curse just decimates some people. There's a priest of Hystra, which is a god of like love, and she just goes like on a spree of like seducing all these guys and like almost like exhausting herself to death and all this stuff. Like it's just this crazy curse. And Catterley is an innocent, and he is sort of like tricked into opening the bottle and releasing the curse. So he feels it's his duty to sort of stop it and like put the bottle back on. And he's a like his personality, he's very innocent, like not just innocent, but like he doesn't like violence. He's very peaceful. He doesn't like have to do those things. So Catterley, when he gets down there and like the evil cleric has raised all sorts of undead creatures. Like there's skeletons, there's zombies, and he's like terrified of these things. He doesn't fight. Like the clerics have to train with a weapon, and he talks about the fact that he found some weird halfling weapon, which is a yo-yo. They call it a spindle disc, but he made a yo-yo and considers it his weapon. So he's like tossing a yo-yo at the skeleton, and the skeleton's like bonk, and then like nothing. And he's like, well, that didn't work. So like he's trying to figure out how to like handle like these undead creatures and stop this curse to save everyone in the library, and it's all he's ever known because he was raised in the library. And then it ends up being like like a quote unquote good ending, but he's scarred by the experience because he's also an inventor, and he recreated this hand crossbow from a tapestry that was on a wall, and that was from ancient like dark elves had this hand crossbow, and he had it recreated. Then he's got these darts that have oil impact, so this dart, when it collapses, it makes an explosion. So he was like, I only meant this to blow locks and stuff, but he ends up killing Bargene with it on accident. So he's horrified that he killed a person, even though he's a bad guy. Oops. So he's like dealing with the trauma of that. And there was a mummy in there, and there's an imp with like a poisonous tail. So like it's this whole thing about like just like the horrors of that this chaos curse unleashed on everyone, and he was the only one that could stop it, and he wasn't ready for that. He's just a young, like he's like at 20, like he's just a young guy. Skip 2 bucks later, he's now kind of forced into this situation where he's sort of struggling with his faith and that kind of thing. And the big bad guy, which is Abalister, was the wizard, the head of the wizard sect of Castle Trinity, sends off these assassins to kill him. Now, assassins, yeah, whatever, fantasy stuff, like they're going to kill him. But the way this assassin kills people is to me, is horrifying, because he has this magical mirror that appears on his chest, and he has these like black and white gloves, and he is this scrawny, like sickly, weak being. He's like he's like a child could kill him. Like nothing can like he is nowhere near physically imposing. So what he does is no one sees him as a threat. So he goes up to someone, and this magical mirror appears, and they look in the mirror, and he switch bodies with you. He then murders you as you are in his body, and he has a special healing ring that's tucked in his boot that will heal his broken, stupid little body. and he sort of takes over your body or takes over your friends' bodies and like watches you and kills everyone around you until he kills you. And they send this night mask named Ghost after Catterley, the main character, and he's like sort of not only struggling with his faith, but these innocent people are getting killed because he's trying to survive this a group of assassins. Of course, there's just regular just like bandit sort of people who are a part of the assassin group as well. But just like the horror of this thing possessing you, killing you. There's a part where, so in this part, Catterley is staying in an inn and he becomes friends with the inn's son. And Ghost possesses the inn's son, beats him to death with a walking stick, and shoves him in a corner between the bed and the wall and keeps him there and in that broken small body until he needs him again. And the body's so weak it can't even move. And the crazy thing is, like, when he does this to his original body, because of that healing ring, he could do anything to that body and it will still come back. And so he's basically got you and there's nothing you could do about it. So it's sort of his story of how he defeats the Night Masks and moves on. So that, to me, like, if you think about it, like, again, to me, I don't find that particularly horrifying, but like those situations are very scary in the right light of switching bodies, like all the horrifying things this assassin does to people just to kill someone. And then the last book, which I am currently rereading, I've read all 4 the past month. The last book is just called The Chaos Curse and is the final one in the chapter. I've skipped a lot of important people and important parts, but all the way back in the first book and through several of the books, there's a side character called Rufo, who used to be sort of Catterley's friend / rival, but ends up sort of getting left behind by Catterley's growing fame for all the things he's doing. And Rufo is kind of not only jealous, but also making the wrong decisions, going down the wrong path. So he finds himself at the end of the book 3, exiled and permanently scarred because they put like an exiling mark on his forehead. And if he ever covers it up, he'll die or whatnot. And he's just not having a good time. Also, Catterley, his wife to be Danica, is like Rufo's love of his life, even though Rufo's never done anything about it too. So there's all sorts of romantic rivalry stuff going on with him too. So he ends up eventually excommunicated from the church because of his actions in the 3rd book caused the death of a headmaster of the order, and it's sort of like the final straw, his last screw up. Like, you're done. You're excommunicated by. So he stumbles. He stumbles back to the library because another side character, the imp, I think I mentioned him in the first Chaos Curse. This imp is sort of the one who came up with the curse and has been sort of leading the Castle Trinity to this desire of taking over the place. The imp is the one that had the formula. And so the imp is like, we need to get that bottle back. They stowed it away in the catacombs. We need to get it back. So he convinces Rufo, who now has nothing to live for, to go back to get the bottle. He's like, yes, we will take over. And Rufo, in a brilliant moment of brilliance, gets the Chaos Curse and drinks it. And Druzel, the imp, is like, what are you doing? You're stupid. He's like, no, why did you do that? You wasted it. You could have ruled the world. And then Rufo proceeds to vomit blood for like 2 days. He goes to the library to sort of get healed and whatnot, and even though he's excommunicated and not allowed in, they let him in anyways because he's violently dying, screaming, vomiting blood, like horrifying experience, right? He dies. He dies in the headmaster's arms, who invited him into the church. And his last words to the big kahuna of the whole church is, you invited me in. And he's like, of course I did. You're dying. We need to help you. And then he's like, "You invited me in," and then he just screams and dies, and like people are just like freaked out by it, and he's like, "What is going on?" Then that night in his chamber or like his death chamber and his death cloak or whatever, Rufo wakes up. Rufo is an original vampire. The Chaos Curse turned him into a like original vampire, like a full powered everything. And then this book is about his taking over and defilement and destruction of the church and everything that most of the characters stood for, because most of the characters lived in this church. He murders so many people, like, and this is just like a classic vampire tale with like him bringing up all these other vampires, creating a whole coven, and then Catterley's fight against this vampire to sort of retake the library and the church. And ultimately the library is desecrated and has to be destroyed. But there is a good ending to it per se, and then that catches you up to where in the Dritz series where they first meet Catterley. Like after that, that's where they meet. It's like a whole 5-book quintology to talk about this whole character's life up until they meet the main character of the main series. And I love the book series. They're my favorites. This whole quintology. But like the things I'm talking about, like the vampire stuff, the night masks, like the Chaos Curse itself, I feel those are very horror, like very.
I will be back.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys are gonna read them, because it's 5 books that to describe a side character in a 42-book series that's still going, but there you go. That is my horror book recommendation.
Well, there is one series that I have read for a long while, but I mean, like this was when I was much younger, so like the age recommendation for the books I think is like 12 years old. But I mean, like The Last Apprentice, I would say is probably one of my favorite series. It's written by Joseph Delaney. I don't know how far into the series he is now, but I think I have like about 13 of his books.
Okay.
And I think you might like them just for the sake of it's not just horror or whatever, but it follows the idea of like the seventh son of a seventh son and having to learn about elements and forces of darkness and how to be able to deal with them and stuff like that. So
Okay.
there's lore behind all of like these weird supernatural creatures that he has to deal with.
Wasn't there like a movie not too long ago called The Seventh Son?
We don't talk about that. It never happened. It's like Dragon Ball GT. It never happened.
But was it about this series? Was it based on this series?
I will confirm nothing.
So yeah. So yes.
It never happened in my mind.
So yes, it was, but it was terrible.
Wasted.
Okay.
Ugh.
I was excited for that movie when they put a trailer for it.
Oh,
I was thinking about
if
this
you've read
like
the books. If
the
you've
books,
read the books, you'd be able to appreciate them better than the movie.
Okay,
yeah,
so what was this?
Like it was like the first Aragon movie for Aragon fans who have read Aragon.
Yes, yeah.
Or
I never read Aragon.
Like,
I saw the movie, didn't like the movie. I was like, boy, I bet some people are mad. And yeah, they are.
What was that other
The Owls of
movie
Ga'Hoole?
that? Not that one. It was written by the same guy who wrote, I believe it was the Bucket List. No, it wasn't the Bucket List. It was the Wish List. What was their name?
It was like The Owls of Ga'Hoole was another failed movie on a supposed really good book series.
I'm going to quickly. Let me see the Wish List. Oh yeah, the Artemis Fowl. Oh my God, yes, the Artemis Fowl series. The books infinitely better than the movie.
Gotcha.
Hate to say it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I for one, there have been talks about taking the Dritz series onto the movie screen, I've been really excited about that. I really want to see it happen because those are some
I
fantastic
hope they do a better
books.
job than some of these
Yeah,
other movies.
that's always the risk, right? Just like completely botching it. But am I off base
Yeah.
of what I described for those being horror books? They're not really told in a horror way.
I think it's horror, especially with the OG vampire story. I
Yeah.
do like
Mm-hmm.
different vampire stories. So one of my book recommendations is a creature horror,
Mm-hmm.
kind of. So it is by Myra Grant, and there's 2 books so far in the series. The first one's kind of a prequel, and it's only available like through Kindle.
Okay.
And then the other one is a full book, and it was pretty long. So the prequel is called Rolling in the Deep. Book is called Into the Drowning Deep, and it's about killer mermaids
Oh.
in the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
Okay.
So, um, the first one, the first one I read was the prequel, and it did come out first, and it's a novella, so it's pretty short, and it is found footage horror. And
Found
the
footage
premise,
mermaids horror. Okay.
yes, the premise is there's like a Discovery Channel TV show that they're going to send a team of researchers out to check out the Mariana Trench. And they don't mean to find mermaids there, they just do. And the
Yeah.
mermaids kill everybody on the ship. And so the story's told from the perspective of different like camcorders, researcher diaries, video diaries, things like that.
Okay.
Because somebody finds the ship like abandoned. So then the next book
Yeah.
is like a year or 2 years later, and a company decides that they're going to fully fund a research team to send them out to the Mariana Trench. And like this company bought all of the like footage, paid off Discovery, like the Discovery Channel's team to shut all this down, and it never gets out. So nobody knows what happened to the missing researchers and
Yeah.
all of that. So they're gonna send them out again, but this time they have like trained big game hunters on the ship. They've got like different types of zoologists, aquatic specialists, people who study like sounds in the ocean, like algae, like everything. And they're gonna try to basically recreate the Discovery series, but we know there's mermaids. Mermaids are real. But mitigate the damage. And obviously it's not going to go well for them either.
Sure. Yeah.
And the second book feels very much like if you have read or listened to the original Jaws novel.
Mm-hmm.
The second book feels a lot like that, with like your main story is still about the killer stuff in the water, but then you've got like social drama peppered in there.
Sure. Okay.
Another unique thing about the book is one of the main characters is her job is to study the different sounds in the ocean at different levels, and it helps to like determine what animals live in different parts of the ocean.
Right. Yeah.
So, but she is autistic and queer, which is a big change in a main character, I will say.
Sure.
And I thought it was a refreshing change, I think, from what I'm used to with reading sci-fi and horror. It's usually cis male.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say that the Claire Quintet is very much like cis male, like human,
which is fine.
Yeah.
You know.
Whereas conversely, the main series he's male, he's not queer, but he is a dark elf, and they do a lot with like racism because he's an evil elf. So there is that aspect to the main series, but like, yeah, the Claire Quintet, he's just a normal guy.
But I think you would enjoy kind of the way that they go really in depth with trying to be very scientific with
The
like the
mermaids.
research,
Yeah.
the mermaids, and like the science that's going into studying the mermaids and the area that they are, and it's very, very cool. And there's some very tense scenes with it turns into a bit of a bloodbath for a while on the ship. Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Cabin in the Woods, where the guy wants to see the mermaids. He's been rooting for the mermaids the whole time. He's like, "Not the mermaid! Are you kidding?" Like that part. I was just that was a good one. I was gonna say there's a real life story that I know of or heard. You talked about like the ship just sort of being abandoned. So I have a friend that I used to work with back when I worked at Dayton Lamina / Dayton Progress was their name. He was like my IT manager, Paul. His brother-in-law or his brother, someone related to him down in Florida, they own a business of catching tropical fish and rare fish for aquariums, zoos, personal collections, and that kind of thing. So they have a diving team, a little boat, and they build their own aquariums and stuff too. Apparently, it's a very lucrative business. It has a lot of money. But this guy had a best friend that worked with him on the job. And so what they would do is they'd have 2 divers go down, catch fish, with whatever they had, and explore underwater, scuba dive, or whatever they needed to do. And one guy up on the boat. Well, they heard on the radio him saying like, "Hey, there's another boat coming towards us. Let me check this out." And then they heard a scream on the radio, and they can't go up right away because bends, like that kind of stuff. So, but they do start heading up, and they have to wait, and they go up. There's blood all over the ship. He's gone. There's no body. They never found anything. And the guy's just dead, and no one knows what happened to him. No one knew what happened to the other ship. He's just gone and dead. And like, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, what? Like, that is crazy." And yeah, apparently
it's real life horror.
That is apparently what happened to this guy, and no one knows what happened to him or has seen him since. Like,
what's even the point of that? Like, if they probably had so much expensive equipment on that ship.
I don't know.
None of it was taken. Like,
I don't know. He didn't say if anything was taken or not, but the focus of the story was the guy being murdered essentially, or taken.
Yeah, but like to me, what I'm thinking is like, why? Why?
Yeah, I don't.
It's so random.
Evil needs no reason, baby. That's how it goes.
Yeah, it was when he told me about it. I was like, "Holy cow! Are you serious?" Like, and the guy had like a family and everything too, and they had to tell the wife what was going on, and like they had Coast Guard and stuff out there to try to figure out what happened, and just nothing came of it. And I think they did. Thinking about it, I think they did take some things, but like there wasn't like most of their equipment were with them down there trying to get the stuff. So I don't know. Like it was the empty ship reminded me of that story. I was like, yeah, it's a fitting Halloween story. Unfortunately, it's real. So Morg, did you have another book to recommend, or? I mean, I did all three of mine.
Well, I mean, I don't really know if this counts as a book, but there's any number of entries written by Ian Livingstone, who, is the writer for Warlock, A Firetop Mountain, who writes a whole bunch of action-adventure novels, games in book format, like what I've mentioned before. Yeah.
He was
As it turns out, he's got hundreds of these books.
Hmm.
I had no idea. Like there's a book that he's written. It's called Death Trap Dungeon, and now I wanna actually read / play that book. And then there's one. What is it? I think it's the Lich's Crypt or something like that.
Yeah.
City of Thieves, Caverns of the Snow Witch, Island of the
fantasy
Lizard
stuff.
King, Forest of Doom.
Fantasy stuff
Oh my
you
gosh,
can
yeah.
easily delve into horror when you start talking about stuff like witches and
Crypt of the
zombies
Sorcerer.
and you can get
Really? Oh my god! Oh well, there you go. Okay, yeah. Well, he's written one. It was written in 2012. It's called Blood of the Zombies. Ooh, that would be a great themed book, especially considering it's an adventure story where you have to pick all the right decisions or you die. That's gonna be. I might actually pick up a copy of that book.
There's a choose your own adventure sort of like text game that I played on my phone a couple years back. I don't remember it, but I remember you got to choose your class and I was a ranger and I was like going through the woods and it was actually very interesting. Like had to solve some mysteries and do some things and yeah, it was just like a choose your own adventure on my phone. Like it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I remember Goosebumps had a couple of those books too, but I don't
They
think
had
that they're.
a ton of them, and I read all of them.
Oh wow, you're cultured.
So
Pshaw.
I don't know if Ace is still gone. He might be taking care of family stuff. So
So
what?
that 3-hour mark rolls around really fast.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So is there any other movies that you guys really want to talk about? Because I have a couple I could mention.
Movies.
Aliens?
No, Alien.
Alien is good, but I like Aliens because it's got the queen.
Aliens is not horror though. I mean, it's like horror adjacent.
Well, it's horror adjacent with like a slap of comedy in there because game over, man.
Yeah.
Why did you put her in charge? Yeah.
No,
I
I like Aliens. I do. But Alien is a true horror movie. And
Alien, yeah. Especially when the robot
so.
is freaking out and then like attacks
it
everybody.
holds
I was
up.
like,
It still holds up.
Oh yeah, it does.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's spooky.
And I mean, my child is named Ripley.
Yeah.
How can I not mention Alien?
Sure. Yeah.
It has to be done.
So what do you guys?
It has to be.
I don't really like the Predator series that much, but I liked Prey. Like,
I love Prey.
The
Prey
original
was
Predator
great,
is
but
pretty funny.
Predator is amazing.
I've
love
never
Predator.
seen Predator all the way through. Honestly.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It is what you're looking for, Dylan.
I have seen Alien versus Predator all the way through. And I've seen Alien
It's hard
versus
not
Predator 3 all the way through. Is that the one where they're in the Aztec temple?
I don't know
Yes.
because I'm only
Yeah.
seen the
It's-
first Alien versus
It's the
Predator.
one when they're in Antarctica. I remember the first one being that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one where they're in this crazy Aztec temple, and it's just like, holy cow. That one, I know it didn't get reviewed well, but I liked that one. But it's not really, it's kind of horror. There's a lot of like horror adjacent, like sort of thriller movies that are monster movies like that. Like, okay, Starship Troopers, not a horror movie. Not at all. I wouldn't
No.
put it that.
No.
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi. However, Starship Troopers 2, horror movie. Not good, but a horror
Not
movie.
good.
Because it's all about the brain bug, and they're trying to figure out, it's like it. They're trying to figure out who is infected with the brain bug and like try to survive.
Okay, but then if we're going to talk about like a good horror movie with that theme, it's John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, not yet. I meant the
Yes.
Thing. Yeah. It and The Thing I
Yeah.
interchanged
I like the
because of their
Pingu version of it. Anybody ever seen the Pingu version of the thing?
Pingu. The Thing.
Yes.
No.
There is literally. It's on YouTube.
Doot doot. Oh
Yeah.
man,
Yeah, it
Newt,
is.
Newt.
It is 100% Pingu's the Thing, where all the penguins get infested by the thing or whatever. It is so good. Here, wait, let me see if I can find it.
That sounds terrible in a good way.
It is
In a good
amazing.
way.
Oh my god. Even the guy who like created the thing watched it and he was like, "This is beautiful. It's actually probably better than my movie."
I am so okay. I didn't know that Pingu was like a meme for people to have like jokes about, because my girls legit watched Pingu for a while when they were younger. Like that was a thing that we watched, and like so I knew about Pingu pretty well. And then I started seeing like memes of Pingu going like "Newt Newt motherfucker" and stuff like that. Like I was just like, oh, okay, people like
I'm putting the
Pingu.
link in.
Pingu is. This is the
I'm
first
gonna
I've heard
put
of
the
Pingu.
link in general just to show everybody because oh my god, it is amazing.
So Pingu is
You
like a
have to
kid's
see it.
cartoon where there's this claymation penguin, and like he's like a
Okay,
kid.
I feel like I've definitely seen memes of Pingu. Yes, I have.
Yeah. And he just says
Yeah,
newt newt
this
a
video.
lot, and his beak becomes a trumpet. Like
It's amazing. Oh, what a classic
so
show. I loved it.
Pingu the
It
thing.
was a great kids cartoon. The fact that somebody went
I
out
got
of their
the
way
impression-
to turn like Pingu into like the thing, but reimagined with Pingu stuff. It's oh man, it's just
Yeah, because there's a
beautiful
lot
stuff.
of stuff about Pingu. It's just a weird kids cartoon. Like I'm not even sure if it's old or new or anything.
It's very old.
It's very
Like,
old. Okay, because
It's
I think
been
they're
around since before I was born. So
okay because they're on Netflix at one point. I don't know if they still are, but like the girls loved it. This is back when I hadn't left Dayton yet that we watched this. So
1986.
that's pre me.
That's when. Yeah.
yeah, it's been around for a good while.
Yeah, I mean I was born '88,
Actually,
so it's before
the
me.
funny thing about Pingu's the Thing. Pingu's the Thing was apparently so horrific that it actually got struck down and removed from YouTube because the people who originally created Pingu didn't
want
like
it
seeing the
associated.
characters in that light, and so yeah, they did everything they could to try and remove this. And then the people who created Pingu's the Thing were like, "No, we want this up," you know, like this is technically a parody, you know, like this is fair use or whatever.
Yeah.
And so people have been battling to try and keep it on or whatever, and now it's finally come back because the guy who created the thing actually went out of his way to say, "Yeah, this is good. I like it. Probably better than my movie."
Combined.
So all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah." YouTube was like, okay, fine. Well, we can't really argue with this. I mean, like it is fair use. We'll put it back on."
Yeah, but YouTube and fair use is a whole drama that we can't get into.
No, it isn't, and that's why I refuse to be a YouTuber now. It's never going to happen. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
You had good
I'm not
content.
putting my stuff on YouTube.
You had good content though. I enjoyed your stuff. That's why
was fun stuff.
That's why we connected, Morg. Is I saw your stuff, was like, come on my podcast, and then you were on like 6 or 7 times, and I was like, come on permanently. Your soul is mine now. So okay, again, I'm not super into horror, so I don't seek this stuff out. But you just like, especially in the '90s, you get to see some stuff just because. Well, my parents like to watch movies, a lot of movies. So I've heard Jurassic Park classified as horror.
Technically, yes.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but
I feel they're more disaster movies.
Well, I mean, the Raptors are kind of like, you know, like slasher characters. I mean, like they're sort of super serial killer, you know,
it's
hunter versus hunted kind of thing.
To me, it's like Jurassic Park 1, yes.
They can open the doors.
Jurassic Park 1,
Spooky.
certainly I could feel would bleed into horror. Jurassic World, that's just natural disaster movie to me. Like, especially,
That's just dumb shit. It's never gonna hold up to the original Jurassic Park.
I actually really liked World. I actually liked Dominion, the newest one. I saw it in theaters with my friend. It was pretty. I
The one
liked
with
it.
Giganotosaurus,
Yeah.
the big boy.
Well, the big one that they had in this in Dominion was the Therizinosaurus. They had a Therizinosaurus face off against a T Rex and a Giganotosaurus, too.
Oh yeah, the one with the crazy manicure.
Yeah, the crazy, super long claws, and you're like, holy cow! And the
Super
things,
bird with
but
the super nails.
yeah. So there's that. Like, I've watched A Quiet Place 1. I haven't watched number 2 yet.
I fell asleep in the second one.
Not that
Wow.
good.
What a glowing review.
I have real big problems with The Quiet Place in general, which is this man can't keep his hands off his wife. Like, are you serious? You're gonna bring a baby into this world? This quiet world where babies are notoriously never quiet.
Nope.
I
Fair.
can't suspend my disbelief with this one. They would be massacred immediately. Like, I can't.
That's fair. That is fair.
There is no way she gave birth silently. Just isn't. As a person who has given birth on drugs, I did not do that silently.
Mm-hmm.
Now with no drugs, you're telling me she just was like,
Like the grunting. Yeah.
no, she didn't.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I've heard nothing but
that's not
good
gonna cut
things
it.
until Sasha, right there. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, I get
What
it.
was it? Yeah, I think the one that really just did not sell for me. I think it was the Unborn, the one with like the demon baby or whatever it was.
I don't know. A lot of the like demonic horror kind of just blends together to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
really stupid. So the entire premise is that this woman is pregnant with a kid or whatever, and then like her her twin brother that she cannibalized in the womb of her mom, like like it was really weird. Like it makes very little sense why her twin brother wants to haunt her or whatever, but apparently
No, that's
it's like a
malignant,
paternal.
isn't that? That's malignant. It's a
Yeah,
teratoma.
I can't remember. But anyways, fuck the story. Anyways, yeah, the one part that really like just set me off the most was like the part where she's like in the bathroom, and like how there's like the mirrors with like the medicine cabinet behind the mirrors or whatever, and she's like, and then she reaches and then she opens up the medicine cabinet, and then there's the baby going, Rah! And then she's like, and I'm like,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie.
I'm terrified.
I
That
feel
was
like
absolutely fucking terrifying. That child had access to all that medication. What an irresponsible young lady. And whatever. And everybody's like, "Oh, fuck off, Morgan.
I'm not
It's
gonna.
that scary.
I'm not gonna
What is wrong
lie.
with you?" And I'm like, "This movie's terrible, guys. It's shit. Why are we even watching this? That's the horrifying thing about it, is that we're going to be sitting here for an hour and a half watching garbage."
So I'm not gonna lie. I don't think that people can make a baby scary to me. Like, I don't think that can be scary.
Now, I will
First time
say,
parenting is scary.
I've got a recommendation. It is horror, but I don't think it's scary.
Sure.
I think it's called The Baby. Hang on, let me see.
Oh no! Is it a demon possessed baby?
It better not.
Worse. Okay, it's called The Baby. It's comedy horror. It's on HBO Max. It's a TV show.
No.
And it's about this woman who she's going through some stuff in her personal life, and she's a bit of a mess, and her whole family and her friends like think she's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And So she decides that she's gonna like Uber out to like an Airbnb out in the middle of nowhere to like decompress, get her head straight, and then restart. But when she goes out there, she stumbles across. She's like on the beach, and there's this big cliff behind her, and like a baby falls in her hands. And then right after that, a person commits suicide, throws himself off the cliff. So this baby is like the harbinger of death.
Oh,
and
no.
every time she tries to take the baby to like drop them off at like a hospital or a police station, like everybody dies there in horrible accidents, like Final Destination style. And so she can't get rid of this baby.
Okay. That's kind of okay.
This sounds great.
I was thinking if there was ever a horror movie where there's like a demon possessed baby that attacks you, like I would never,
like Rosemary's Baby.
I would never find that scary because so there's a joke between me and the girls because girls, they're like, oh, babies are so cute, and I'm like, babies are terrible and ugly. Don't like I don't say this to the girls, but I'm kind of like just like the attitude of don't at me. I don't care. Like babies are just terrible and ugly. And I don't actually think this. Like this is just something that's a joke between me and the girls. It's okay.
You can be honest with us.
No, I don't have any problems with babies, but if there was something like a demonic baby, because they're just so like my reaction to a lot of horror things are just like, just kill it. Just do whatever. If there's a demon possessed baby, I'm punting it. I am just kicking it like a football.
Somebody tries this too.
Yeah.
Somebody tries this too. You have got to watch this show. It is.
So you're the Mikey of this group.
Maybe.
Yep, he's the Mikey.
With babies though, not kids. Kids are fine.
Rick, get an axe.
Oh, that's funny.
I think the baby from the baby would be your match then, because you would not be able to punt that baby. It would sense your intention, and something Final Destination style would happen to you.
I still have HBO Max, so I might check that one out. Because
The Omen is also pretty good for spooky kids.
Yeah,
there's one on Netflix that's a horror comedy as well called Little Evil, and it's got Adam Scott in it, and he has a stepson who is the son of the devil, and he is the Antichrist, and so like bad stuff just keeps happening to him. So it's like The Omen through a comedy lens. It's very good.
Okay. I think I had that on my queue once, and I might have just never got to it.
It's really good. I've actually watched that one more than once, and I don't like to rewatch movies.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I just something super small doesn't scare me a lot of the time. Like I don't know. Maybe not. Except for bugs. Like I'm not normally afraid of bugs, but if there's a praying man, I love praying mantis, by the way. You have one fly on you, I get unnerved. Like whatever it is, I've had a couple fly onto me, and I'm just like, just like get off.
When I was working at Target Tech, my district manager was visiting, and as we were having a conversation, there was a fly that literally like directly up into my nose.
Oh.
And we were both like, what in the hell?
Well, I've told you guys about the rat, right? Like, I'm not afraid of mice or rats or anything, but I told you about the rat that ran up my pant leg, right?
No.
So back in college, we were actually here because I lived here during college. We had a bunch of people over every Friday night. We did D&D still. And we had a bunch of people over, and we were done with D&D, so we were in the living room playing Smash Brothers. And this is when Chauncey's cat, Tigger, was still around. And Tigger couldn't meow. He was one of those, what are they called? There's a special name for them, but they have a mitten. They have like an extra paw on their side. There's a name for them, but the double paw cats. Double paw cats. I don't. There's an. I starts with an H. I don't remember what they're called, but if
Handsome boys.
they're yeah, if they are male for some reason, if they have two paws, like the mutation of two paws, they cannot meow. For some reason, like if it's a male, they can't meow, and Tigger couldn't meow. So what he did this weird like panting noise when he was trying to meow. He'd go like. So he was chasing a mouse or a rat or whatever, and he was chasing around the house, and he runs up to me, like straight to me, and he starts going, and I'm like, what? What cat? And then I feel it. Up past my knee, I feel something running up my leg. And I was wearing jeans. And I was like, oh! And I just start slapping my leg and like pushing it down. And sure enough, rat, mouse, whatever, comes running out of my pant leg and goes into the kitchen. I was just like, I am not afraid of those things, but I'm afraid of those things that they're running up my pant leg. That's for sure. Holy cow. I had to take a break. I was like, you guys keep playing? I'm just going to go settle down.
I was going to say.
The last thing you need is a rat.
Shower.
Yeah, the last thing you need is a rat nibbling your junk.
It didn't get that far.
That's horrifying.
It didn't get that far, but man, I was super freaked out. Like, again, like, looking at that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. The moment something lands on me that I don't expect or runs up my leg or whatever, I freak out. Like, because I don't know what it is and yada yada. So those are the small things that scare me when they unexpectedly land on me. But I honestly do love praying mantis. They're amazing. We need more. That was actually my favorite Anabot. What was it? Beast War. Whatever they were called. They had
Animorphs?
No. It was Transformers that were animals. They were called Beast Wars. But whatever.
Oh! Whatever. The Maximals and the Predacons.
Yeah. Predacon, there you go. My favorite Predacon was the praying mantis.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other horror movies to talk about? Like I said, I'm kind of glad that Morgan and I got to do the Tucker and Dale thing. I got a lot of compliments today. Even from so I went with the girl's birthday party, and Keith, which is my ex-wife's current husband, was there, and he was like, hey, that's the nice overalls. He's literally wearing the same overalls, like, unironically. And
oh my god. And
I was like, yeah, I'm dressed up as Dale from Tucker and Dale. And he's like, I love that movie. Oh yeah. He's like, yeah, you don't normally wear this stuff. That's great. And so, yeah, I had a jacket on, but I took off the jacket so you can see I cut off the sleeves and everything. And he's like, that's hilarious. So like, that got us a conversation. I'm gonna let them have one of my copies because I have two Blu-ray copies. So, and
so I've got 2 movies.
Yeah, before you got interrupted. Yeah.
So, these are the 2 very well-known Ari Aster movies: Hereditary and Midsommar.
I love Midsommar.
Midsommar I loved so much, I went to the A24 shop and got the collector's edition that they had. So this is the director's cut, which features some deleted scenes and stuff like that.
Ooh, lovely.
Okay. I did like, there was a movie that you guys suggested to me to watch, and I did like it, The Ritual. I watched that.
Yes. That one was very good. And sort of fitting in somewhat with the theme of the movie, The Spine has like this print that just looks like little dicks.
Oh boy.
Both these movies are very good. Toni Collette and Florence Pugh by far deserved awards for their performances, but you know, it sucks that horror movies generally cannot win Oscars except for, I think, original screenplay for Get Out was one that won.
Mm-hmm.
I think Silence of the Lambs won something.
Silence of the Lambs did win.
Yeah, way
Yeah.
back in the day, and there hasn't been much for horror movies since, which is bullshit. Because
Yeah, it was
they're-
Anthony
they're
Hopkins
art
who
in their own right.
got it, didn't he?
I
Yeah.
think Jodie
I
Foster.
think so. Yeah, I mean either one of them in that movie, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that is
both
one
these
I have
movies-
seen. Yeah.
Both these movies have very, in my opinion, visceral depictions of grief with what transpires in the movies.
Sure.
Midsummer, especially with the opening scene. If you have like aversions to suicide or that kind of thing is easily triggering for you, be forewarned that there is a very dark scene at the beginning of the movie that involves that, and it's definitely one of the more uncomfortable moments I've been in a horror movie or been watching a horror movie.
Right. Let me see.
Yeah, I think like in Hereditary, the non-horror scene that sticks with me the most is the dinner scene.
Oh,
Sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, just like the pain and the struggle of like being a parent that she
Yeah.
depicts there, and like the whole struggle of like not wanting to hate your child but like somewhat hating your child and not being able to properly like convey emotions and whatnot and
Right.
talk about it comfortably.
I did see a horror romantic comedy the other day that I really liked called Warm Bodies.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. That's
Oh,
not a
as a
bad one.
person who doesn't like zombie stuff.
I don't normally. I really don't. Because zombies are stupid. They're like the dumbest monsters to ever be afraid of. In my opinion.
Yeah, my roommate says the same thing.
Like, so the girls are legitimately afraid of zombies, and like whenever they'd be like, Daddy, the zombie can get you or whatever, I was like, just push it down. It's just a rotting corpse, or walk away. You're faster if you walk. Like, it's a corpse. Like, It's not gonna go well. I will say,
Yeah, I mean-
and I also normally don't like vampires. However, I do recommend the Blade trilogy. Those are fun. Not really horror, not really. They're more like action.
Yeah.
I was trying to find on my list. I don't know how to describe it. Beetlejuice? Not really horror.
That's technically sort of horror. I mean, like Tim Burton's got a peculiar sense of macabre, especially like the scenes where where the couple are like trying to make themselves look scary. Like the one girl flicks her eyes back into her skull, and then she like stretches her jaws open and makes it look like a crocodile's mouth, almost like. And then like her eyes are in like her throat, dancing on top of her tongue. Like that's kind of freaky. And like when the guy, like when the husband is like like dissecting like his eyeballs and sticking eyeball pieces onto like his fingertips and stuff like that, and then he like does it's kind of fucked. You have to admit it's pretty fucked.
Yeah,
but it's good.
The sandworms are just like, I always felt they were like dune worms. Like those are
they're like mini doom worms.
Another movie that I own now because I liked it so much that it's horror is Underwater. Like, I like that one.
That one's excellent.
Nope, we're not watching that. My thalassophobia is going to kick in so hard. I do not want to watch a movie like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys brought it up at all. I would also technically count the children's show. Courage the Cowardly Dog as horror.
Yeah.
Ooh. Oh my god, I remember seeing
You
that on
stupid dog!
YTV. That
Making me
show
look
is really,
bad.
really scary. It's a Nickelodeon series, isn't it?
Cartoon Network.
Cartoon Network.
Or is it
Cartoon
Cartoon Network?
Network.
Okay.
Yep, because it came
I was
on
thinking,
after. For a while, it came on after Johnny Bravo, and Johnny Bravo I love. Johnny Bravo was like a guilty pleasure even as a kid. It was just hilarious to me.
With half of the stuff that poor purple dog has to deal with, I'm not surprised that he's a cowardly dog.
And there were some legit creepy characters in that show too.
Yes.
Like the cat. The cat is
Yes.
super creepy.
The giant foot with like the 5 head and like the 5 faces and one on each toe. That one's weird.
I don't remember that one.
I read an article.
One wrong
Apparently,
move and the fat lady gets
They are
it.
bringing Courage the Cowardly Dog back for one final season, and it's going to end with Courage's death.
Oh, I don't
Can't
want
do that. No.
Wow.
I will not
Eustace.
tolerate this. This is not canon in my Courage the Cowardly Dog's
Eustace
reality.
Eustace dies so many times in that series. Like, there's at least 3
Yeah.
episodes I remember him just like he's dead, like he's just
Yeah.
dead. And then next episode, there he is again. You're like, oh, okay, it's just a kids show. Like, nothing's gonna stick. So okay.
Return the slab, or suffer my curse. What's your offer?
Yeah, Courage. I almost I put a lot of high value on Cartoon Network shows back those days, just because I watched them a lot, but also one of those people have become one of my favorite directors ever, Gendy Tartakovsky. So
Yeah, I mean,
no, he didn't do Courage. He
And-
did Samurai Jack, and Dexter's
Yep.
Lab, which became season 5 of Samurai Jack, which became Primal. So
yeah, I mean, Primal in and of its own right definitely has horror elements.
yeah, I told you. Were you here when I talked about I've seen the end of season 2?
I don't think I was here, but I did not expect it to end the way that it did.
I didn't either, and I felt very uncomfortable, and it felt very rapey to me. And I was like, I don't like this. It's questionable. He has no choice. He cannot escape.
I mean, yes, but he did. I'm sure love her.
Yes.
And she wanted to carry on his legacy.
Right.
And have a family for him.
But it was just
it's questionable, but I think
I don't like it.
Is positive.
Once I realized what was happening, I was like, oh no, please no, don't do this. Don't make me watch this. Yeah, man, that's still scarred. I can't. Yeah, I'm getting. Yeah, I don't like it. So yeah.
I mean, if you want to be uncomfortable, you could watch House of Dragons and make it to the season finale.
I don't want to be uncomfortable. Also, I didn't like
It's
Game of Thrones. I didn't like Game of Thrones, so I don't think I'm gonna like House of Dragons.
Oh man, every episode is a different kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah. See, partially is so my brother got me into watching Game of Thrones, as in sort of like we're gonna watch this with my parents, and the amount of sex in that show is just uncomfortable to watch with your parents. Like, it's just not fun. Just not that I'm enjoying watching it in the first place, but on top of the fact that my brother and my parents are in the room, I'm just like, this is just awkward. This is just.
I mean, so far I'd say they've replaced the gratuitous nudity and sex scenes for gratuitous death around pregnancy.
Yeah, trauma around pregnancy and childbirth.
Okay. That is, I can deal with violence. Maybe not that kind of violence. That's yeah.
Well, I mean, violence, I would say definitely in one case because there's one where the baby just isn't coming out, and rather than potentially have her life ended in the same way as a previous character, she fully has her dragon torture. Just straight up Dracarys herself. And I was like, oh no.
Wow.
No, 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 no.
I've got to go back and rewatch the last episode because I heard that stillborn had dragon scales. But I didn't notice it. So I gotta go back and watch it.
I may have to look into that too.
Had dragon. So that means that there was an unnatural pairing between.
The Targaryens are a bloodline of incest, and in Game of Thrones, you remember that Dany has a monster baby, and it's supposed to be because of Mirri Maz-Dur doing the magic on her, cursing her. But it also could just be the centuries of incest that led to Daenerys in the first place. And so Rhaenyra has a stillborn in the last episode, and allegedly it is dragon scaled.
Okay. That is gross and disturbing. Yes.
Horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you've ever how much have you watched Family Guy?
Me?
Yeah.
I watched a lot of it in high school, but I stopped watching. It got way too political eventually, and I stopped watching it. But I've seen a couple episodes since.
Okay. Well, there's a clip from one of the episodes where Peter like comes into the living room and sits down looking nervous, and Brian's like, "Everything okay, Peter?" "Oh yeah. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Might be some problems later, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it." And then a phone call comes, and Lois answers, and she's like, "Peter did what?" "Well, better be getting to work. It's nighttime." "Oh yeah.
Time to hit that dusty trail. Yeah, I do remember that.
Very apt moment for the end of the finale.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I do remember that bit in Family Guy. I was actually thinking about another bit from Family Guy where we were talking about Courage dying. Kind of reminded me of that fake out death of Brian that they had. It was like big news in Family Guy, where Brian got hit by a car.
I mean, it was a real death, but then because of the
time travel
outrage, they time paradoxed it and brought him back.
Yeah, it was just like, man, that felt super cheap just to get tears out of people, because like, ugh, gosh, like,
yeah.
And I had already stopped watching by that point, but I watched that episode specifically. I was like, oh man, really? They did that? Really? So, oh well. I don't know. I just, you guys know, I don't like getting into politics, and then it got political and I stopped watching because I was just like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see it.
Fair enough. Although I will say I do like the recent clip basically making a Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds parody where they go to like a town in the south and they go to like a Waffle House or something, and then they get dirty looks, so they're just like, all right, we'll take our stuff to go, and then they exit the door and there's just people in Trump hats like all around them, and then they're like, Trump! jump, jump, and they all just like start going one after another like a chorus of crows cawing.
That's funny.
I'm just like, that is a bit what it feels like at times.
Yeah, I mean, you see that a lot where I'm at. I saw it a lot more heading to this birthday party today. There was like
Mm-hmm.
at this lake house resort where there's a bunch of people who have these things and they're all Trump 2022 signs like everywhere. Just
God, I just need it to be the midterm elections over with already. I'm tired of all the political ads on YouTube and shit that just don't stop.
oh, we had a conversation about that here in Ohio because like one of the ads is against Tim Ryan, and it is called taxing Tim Ryan, and like Chauncey and I had a discussion about it because like this ad is so prevalent that the only candidate we know is Tim Ryan because they never attach the name of the opposing candidate to the commercial. So it's like
Yeah.
you have Tim Ryan's commercial, and then you have like the anti Tim Ryan commercial, but you never hear the other guy's name. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
I'm getting
I definitely have some.
I get a lot of texts now from Ohio of like, hey, go, who you gonna vote for? And it's like paid by whatever foundation, and I'm like, why are you texting
Yeah.
me? Please stop.
Yeah, no, I've been getting texts too. It's frustrating.
No, Morg is like, I'm in Canada. Screw that crap.
Yep, forget it.
I have been spared. Of course, we're all in similar states. We're very, with Sasha being the connecting state in Michigan and then Wisconsin further.
Yeah.
So I doubt our political climates are really that different, honestly.
Yeah.
No, they tried to kill the governor here.
That was a little crazy. That was a lot further than than anything that happened here. That's for sure. But we did get the mask protesters and stuff too. Like,
yeah,
I've seen so many people that were like acquaintances in high school that were just like, you can't take our freedom and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, come on. Well,
You're not losing your freedom.
yeah.
You're just helping other people not be susceptible to a disease and that could kill them.
Yep.
You
I
can
agree.
forego mowing your lawn and getting your hair cut for a couple weeks. It's okay. You won't die.
There's a guy I know who was legit going nuts because he couldn't go get his hair done. Like, that was his big thing, is he needed to go to the barber. Like, okay, dude, whatever.
Just chill out and experiment with different hairstyles. It's okay.
Gonna be honest, my hair is in this. I literally get a haircut probably about every 6 months. Like, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I let it grow out and then I cut it.
I mean, there was like a good period during COVID, the height of COVID, where I just didn't get my hair cut at all. And I just let it grow out. And I think it got to like between 7 and 9 inches to the point where I could put it in a little wispy knot up
Ponytail,
top.
yeah.
Yeah. It's fine. It's okay. You can cut it later.
Yeah. So, do we have any other horror recommendations tonight?
I mean,
I think we're good.
John
Okay.
Carpenter's The Thing, if that wasn't discussed.
we did talk about
we did.
that.
We did.
Yes,
Okay.
actually.
We also
did
talked
talk
about
it.
John Carpenter's Newt Newt.
Oh, I forgot to mention earlier when I brought up The Shining and Doctor Sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Shelley Duvall is apparently returning to acting, and she is going to be starring in a horror movie.
I saw that.
So I am excited for that because notoriously Steven Kubrick kind of treated her like shit throughout the filming of The Shining.
Yeah. Yep, there's always been that
So-
discussion of like sort of like asking the actor to act versus like tricking them into certain reactions because of what they did. Yeah, there's always chat is saying Werewolf by Night on the Disney Channel. I guess that might be a horror thing. I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't watch Disney. I'm only with the girls. So that's another thing. But yeah, I think that's it. I had to stretch the rules for the books a little bit, I feel, but I really do suggest those books, and that is Scary Scenarios. You missed it all, Ace. It's fine. But to summarize the book stuff, it's all from the same series, and it's R.A. Salvatore's The Claire Quintet. Scary stuff in there. I don't find it scary because it's fantasy, but zombies, skeletons, vampires, and assassins. So, alrighty. Well, next week is quiz week. So, do we want to have some years announced, or do we want to skip that?
I gotta know what Zelda years to look up, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? That is actually a very good point. Let's have these years.
Oh, man.
Let me get my document open. And we will...
And I believe this will be episode 239 that we're going to be working on.
Episode what?
Is it 239 that we're going to be on for next week?
Oh, yeah, I don't know until I stop and save.
Okay.
Oh, that's funny. So the chat, because the picture that we're showing for Jangers is on this screen that I have this, but they can only see the Jangers. They're gonna just see me looking through the years, but yeah, not seeing what I'm looking at. It's interesting. Anyways, all right. So first year.
Chat, if he gives up the answers, record them and send them to us.
I do not have. I am deciding these years as we are telling them, so I have not written the questions yet. So the first year that we're going to do is 1989.
1989. Okay.
And then we're going to do. Oops. Didn't want to delete that. 1996.
Okay.
Pretty sure that's a Zelda year. Pretty sure that's October.
Yeah. They're pretty much
It
all
is.
Zelda years somehow, some way.
I'm pretty sure that's Ocarina.
By the power of the Triforce.
I have the courage, the wisdom, and the power.
And then we're going to do 2001.
A Space Odyssey?
Yeah.
I hope so.
2009. And 2015.
Did I hear that right? 2009?
Yes?
Yes.
And then 2015. Okay.
Right. And according to my notes here, where I now have these things, this will be the first time we've done 1989, and the second time for all the other four. So 96, 2001, 2009, and 2015. So only be the second time for those. So we shouldn't have too many retired games out of those lists, but we'll see. Just as a reminder, 1985 being the earliest year we will do. However, 1985, 86, and 87 are dead. We are not doing those years again. We have exhausted all of the interesting games in one episode featuring those years.
Excellent.
88 is dying, as in there's 3 left. I think 4 left. And the next time we do it will be the last time. And 1992 is dying. We've done it twice, and there's not a lot left. So
Fair enough.
we should have some good stuff. I have 2022 on the list, but I'm not going to do 2022 until we are in 2023. So we will keep that in mind, though. We've only done 2021 once as well. So even last year, because like there's so many games that come out now, I don't know if we can even hit all of them that are interesting, let alone all of them that exist. Never. So those are the years for the next week's quiz show. I will be writing them this week, and we'll do that. I'm pretty definitely that's November. What? It's like November 5th or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, I believe.
So, all right. Anything else to say before we head off? Okay. Well, thank you
Brush
guys.
your teeth, wash behind your ears, do your math, clean your room, don't lie.
I'm gonna have to move this puzzle. Dog keeps tearing it up. She's already broken apart one piece of the border.
What other advice can I give? Help your dad find his beer.
Oh, actually, there is something
that's a must
really.
Do.
So about my dad. So we were before we go. We were at a job site this week. We were at a water plant in Highland County, and we're rewiring some boxes. And I am cutting some wires and shortening them and making the box look cleaner and whatnot. And I'm by myself, like maybe 50 feet down, and my brother and my dad are working on the next box and just sort of getting some information from it. And I hear this terrifying scream from my dad, just yell, and I'm like, what the? Oh, and so I close the box. I have to. So I'm stuck behind these pipes, so I had to crawl over these giant water pipes, and I run up. And there's this drop off that isn't labeled. There's a 4-foot drop off onto concrete that he just fell off of. And he is screaming in pain. And I'm like, what is going on? So I run over there, and he's just laying on the ground down there. And Chauncey's is just like, what the crap do I do? So he just fell down on the concrete, and he hasn't been able to. He's fine-ish. He hasn't had to go to the doctor. He didn't break anything, but he's pretty bruised. He hasn't been able to walk around pretty well. It happened Thursday, I think. So the past couple days, he hasn't been walking around too much. So I was legit scared because it was a terrible noise. And it didn't.
Yeah, I thought based on the work that you were describing, I thought it was going to be electrical shock.
No,
Yep.
you'll hear other noises. You'll hear a pop noise, and then if that was the case, if it was large enough to actually harm someone, you'd hear them get thrown back. Also, but they were it wasn't electrical. They're actually the stuff that we're working in is only 120 volts, which they do label as a danger, but it's not enough to kill you. It'll hurt. In fact, it won't even throw your arm back, but it'll hurt. It feels like you're purposely sticking a needle in your finger with that much voltage. It hurts.
Ow.
So,
yeah.
Which I think 110 is what a wall outlet is. So 120 isn't really that much more.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, but yeah, that reminded me that was super scary this week, but he's doing okay, just not walking too well. So,
Yeah.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Yeah. And next week I'm going to be in normal clothes that have sleeves because I feel very awkward in a sleeveless shirt, but
I'm probably going to get used to wearing this shirt because it actually makes me look bulky. It's
I'm not going to lie. I have never worn suspenders since I was a kid, this was kind of comfortable. Like, wasn't that bad. The sleeveless part, I'm not a fan of, but the suspenders, it's okay. So,
Fair enough.
Thanks everyone for listening / watching. Be sure to catch us on Twitter at HuntersHubPod. You'll see various Monster Hunter stuff and then stuff we're doing for the podcast, and you'll see all the episode announcements and all that kind of stuff. And for Ace at Ace Badger Gaming, he's still active on Twitter despite having different family changes now involving more of his time. I did see you were tweeting some, at least.
Yep.
And
You're there.
Be sure to join the Discord where we can find Morg and Sasha as well as the rest of us. And we're trying to get some more lively discussion on the Discord, although we haven't weighed in on the Devil Joe tail incident. Boy.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah, everybody's like, "Oh, does Devil Joe eat its tail?"
Yeah.
So far, we have not found any footage of it yet, as far as what other people have been telling me.
Yeah. So, alrighty. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next week with our next quiz. I think it's quiz 13 or 12. So,
Yep,
later.
We'll see.